Oh, good morning. I guess the 30th of August. I think so. One of my brothers passed, went to be with the Lord back August of last year. If uh, if he was with us today, tomorrow would have been his 66th birthday, I believe. Dynamic man of God. Perfect? No. But he loved the Lord and he loved people. You know, God tries to teach us grace. He tries to teach us the same grace for one another that He has for us. You know, grace is a compensator. It covers for you when you're not quite up to par, to where you should be. It covers. But you know, at some point that grace is pulled back because we keep refusing, we keep rejecting, we keep neglecting, we just keep pushing into the perversions and the lies and the things that are not right before God. And after a while, God's grace is pulled back. He pulls it back and He lets judgment come upon what we do. He lets judgment fall upon the sin, the thinking, the heart-driven things. He lets judgment be passed upon it. I've talked about this talked about it for 2 years on doing videos, and longer, probably 4 or 5, 6 years on Twisted World News about the difference between liberal and socialist thinking, or liberal and conservative thinking, and godly moral thinking in comparison to what liberal atrocities and shames and disgraces in our lives. The difference in them, and I've tried to tell people about the grace of God covering for a while, but after a while He pulls it back. You know, our parents try to teach us. They try to raise us. We got good parents. They try to raise us with a godly moral conscience, and that conscience works and will keep us afloat until we repent of our sin and let the grace wash away the past. Let the blood of Jesus Christ wash away the sin of our past. Wash away the guilt and the shame upon our life and our conscience. And then let the Spirit of the Lord come in and start bringing true correction. A correction that is truer, it's a cleaner, more righteous, more upright pattern of life that we could follow through the footsteps of Jesus Christ and be better at life than what we are as sinners, or even as a strong, consciously led person. The grace of God, the Spirit of God, cleans us up and makes a better person out of us than what our conscience can. But, I think about what's going on. I just on the news this morning, and of course they may turn around and have something else later come in to bring indictments. But I hear this morning that they're not going to jail Comey over his little role he played in. It's a little sneaky role. I add his little sneaky, conniving, plotting, scheming role he played in the background while serving as the head of the FBI, where he actually tried to manipulate a system to pull the president, a duly elected president, down. He tried to change an election. He tried to cheat the American people out of their vote. You hear me? They tried to cheat a huge majority of the American people out of their vote. Comey was behind it. McCabe was behind it. Clapper was behind it. Brennan was behind it. Obama was behind it. Holder was behind it. Lynch was behind it. Lerner from the IRS, we know where she played the fifth, her and some others, they were behind it. A score of people. Stroke, Page, the list goes on. Listen, we're finding out now that even Google tried to manipulate the thinking of millions. Listen to me. Google, I've got it in there, and we've got the proof of it. There's a fella was interviewed on Fox News, and he talks about it. He said they studied it. And they found out that Google actually tried to manipulate the thinking of, 2.4 or 2.6 million up into as many as 20 million people. Manipulate their thinking into backing Hillary Clinton. They use the power of this Google. They use a liberal attitude, a lying, scheming, cheating attitude to manipulate the thinking of up to 20 million people. And the fella that was being interviewed on Fox, this fella talks about, Fox never done this. This was done by another entity, by somebody else, by a separate entity. Fox News just got wind of it somehow, somewhere, and they interviewed the man. The man said Facebook and Twitter and Google said they're basically unchecked in their actions. You hear me? They're basically unchecked in their actions. They can scheme, plot, manipulate, whatever, and get by with it. $billion technical companies. Billions of dollars behind their names. They basically right now control the media. You've got to realize, people, what's going on. The Bible talks about the Antichrist coming. And the word says you will neither buy nor sell unless it's under his approval. How can he possibly do that in the world? How is that even possible, except it be through and by the technology that's being passed around? And now you know there's people up there that are willing to manipulate that technology to bring you under a submission to them. A duly elected president was trying to bring hope back to this nation in its economy, in the individual rights, trying to bring something back to the people of this nation, and people of perversion. Lying, scheming, cheating, Pocahontases, Creepy Joes. Who else? People willing to lie and manipulate. Tried to remove the man from office. I'm going to be straight with you. I'm just going to talk right straight to you, right in between your eyes. I'm going to look you right between the eyes. You know why they're getting by with it? You know why those perverts are getting by with what they're doing? Because some of you are perverts. And you got your tongue stuck up their butts about that far. They got stink started. They lied, they schemed, they plotted, they done all this trash, and then they went out and done pep rallies, and you stuck your tongue up their butts. That's the only reason those people are afloat today, because you stuck your tongue up their butt. I know you don't like it, and I don't give a piss if you're offended. Why should I give a piss if a pervert is offended? You're willing to cheat and lie to me, my family, my bloodline to satisfy your old selfish, pervert ideas of life. Why should I care if you're pissed? They say they're not going to indict Comey on what he tried to do to President Trump. The DOJ just spit that out. They're not going to indict him. Okay? Hopefully, they'll back up to where he done this rot to the American people when he let Hillary Clinton off the hook. If they don't, listen people, if they don't back up and get this straightened out, I'm telling you, you better listen. You better get your head out of your friggin' smelly, ignorant puss and listen. If they don't get this straightened out and indict these people, you best buy you some guns, Jack. And you best buy you some ammunition. And you best learn how to load them and shoot them. Because perverts will not give you a choice. If justice is not served, these perversions are dealt with indictments and jail terms and even being shot or hung. If it's not done, you best buy you a gun, Jack. Because they gonna be in your face. They gonna be in your face. That's the way of perversions, people. It's the way of liberal thinking. It's the way of socialist. They get in people's face. Little scenario. Let me give you a little comparison, okay? Hitler. He shuck and jived his people into believing that they were a superior race. And within that shucking and jiving, the Jew wasn't necessary. The Jew was an offense. The Jew was an inconvenience brought upon humanity or society. But this garbage took place. The Germans started marching across Europe. They started sucking up countries. Anything that stood in their way, resisted, died. Anything that said, you either agree with me or it's your history. Anything that said no, they got rid of. Only those that were willing to put on their uniform and bear their guns and say, "Heil Hitler," they were the ones that lived. 6 million Jews died. The little inconveniences. Let me change it. I want to turn that around. The little bastards. The little unplanned inconveniences. The little unwanteds. Now, John, that sounds more like abortion. Look at these abortionists. It's not godly. It's not moral. It's not just. It's not fair. There's nothing legitimate about it. There's nothing kosher about it. But yet, millions of babies die a year. They abort the little bastard, the little inconvenience, the little unwanted blob. Now, if you were to take a comparison between Hitler and abortionist and go down the line, you know what you'd see? You'd see the same pattern. You'd see basically the same pattern, the same kind of lying, BS, murderous garbage that took place under Hitler lives in these abortionists. It lives in those that chase it and follow it and throw millions of dollars in it. It lives in them. It lives in them. They call Donald Trump Hitler. Donald Trump's not out there aborting babies. Donald Trump's not out there doing this and that and all this rot, plotting behind closed doors. He's trying to take the laws we have on the book and our Constitution and a godly moral thought pattern and keep things running. But these liberals and this socialists, they got this rot going, man. They got this rot going, and they're feeding it to the liberals and socialists, the perverts, the everyday Joes on the street that are just as corrupt, and they're feeding it to them. And they're feeding this rot, this poop to them. Their propaganda goes out over NBC, ABC, CBS, New York Times, CNN, Washington Post, West Virginia's Charleston Gazette, goes through other medias, Twitter and Google and Facebook, and they're going in there, and these places are censoring voices of truth and honor, those that actually want justice to be served and hope fed into the individual. Those Twitter and Facebook and Google, they're fighting it. Fighting it. They're fighting it. They're fighting truth. They're fighting honor. They're fighting justice. They're fighting fairness. They're fighting godly moral conscience. They're fighting the things that secure life, that give an individual his own thought patterns, his own thinking, his own ways, his own entrepreneurship. They're fighting the very things that make individuals individuals. They're fighting it. Wanting everybody to chase the same friggin' pervert dream. Every bit of that, listen people, every bit of that liberal socialist rot beds together. The whole friggin' thing is a poop hole. The whole friggin' thing beds together. Hitler, Karl Marx, Stalin, Brezhnev, that whole friggin' mess, people, it beds together. Islam, the whole mess, they just call it different things, but it does the same things. Its actions are the same. Its ends are the same. The whole friggin' thing is a poop hole. It beds together. Godless, immoral disgrace and rot, shame, being pushed upon other people through a liberal socialist agenda. It's a disgrace. It's a literal disgrace. This goes way past pitiful, people. It goes way past pitiful that you sit and listen to these people. My mind goes back to Ronald Reagan when he was governor of California, and a professor or dean or something of Berkeley College sitting in I think it was Reagan's office. And Reagan gets pissed off looking at this man. And Reagan gets up, man, he's ill, and he says, "You're old enough to know better." And Reagan walks out. The friggin' pervert teaching a college. You're old enough to know better. That's the people you chase. That's the butt you lick. That butt that's standing in front of your kids in a classroom, pooping its lie and its rot, its disgrace into their mind, and you're kissing on it. You're old enough to know better. Why don't you? Why don't you know better? Those cheats up there, Comey and McCabe and Obamas and Clintons and Stroke and Page and all that friggin' bunch of perverts. You're old enough to know better. Why do you kiss their butts? You're old enough to know better. Why don't you? Why don't you know better? You're old enough to know better. Now, for those you innocent, you decent, you godly, you moral, that you love having a life of peace and serenity and a voice and a choice and you like having your own liberties and freedoms, and you like being able to go out here and work a job and buy you a car or a camper or a boat or a gun or whatever, a four-wheeler, an ATV or something. You like going out there knowing that you've busted your butt and you want to go golfing Sunday, or you want to do this or that. You better buy you a gun, Jack. You better buy you a gun. You better buy 3. And you better buy plenty of ammunition for them. Because if justice is not passed down, if indictments are not brought against these people up there in Washington, D.C., and this is not just Washington, people. This goes into other parts of the government. It goes into your liberal medias where they've lied for these people for years. They're all in this together. People, the whole friggin' thing beds together. The whole thing, the whole liberal show is nothing but a poop hole. It's nothing but a poop hole. The whole thing beds together. If those people are not indicted for their actions against the innocent, the honest, upright, and the helpless of this nation, you're going to have to fight them off your front porch. You're going to have to fight them off your front porch. Listen, people. Perversions, perverts, they won't give you a choice. That's the reason they are what they are, is because the moral conscience, the godly led thinking is gone. It's gone. That's the reason they are what they are. That's the reason they get the backing they do from people on the street, because the same rot that's going on up there is in the minds of millions in the streets, on the streets. Donald Trump's done fighting the rot and this disgrace that's killing and murdering millions of people around the world. He's fighting it in America, the same friggin' rot. He's fighting the same friggin' rot. He's fighting the cheating, the lying, the plotting and scheming, the raping, the murdering. Donald Trump is fighting a war there has never been a president in this nation has fought. They fought pieces and little portions of it here and there, but they've never had to fight it over there and back over here too. The same rot that's over there in Afghanistan and Iraq and took place in Syria and them countries over there that Islam pushed, and its murderous thinking went through and just destroyed lives, killing, raping, destroyed lives. The same friggin' rot going over there is going on in America. The same friggin' rot is going on in America. These 2 Muslim women in the House right now, they're trying to bring that stuff to life in America. There's places in America right now that they say belongs to Islam, And they run their own, they got their own laws alive in those places on American soil. They're wanting to spread it out. They've taken other countries the same way. They got rooted in, they got settled, and they expanded. And now Islam runs the country. Basically, it owns the thinking of the people. They're doing it in America. There's a place, I seen somebody here, it's on Facebook here maybe 3 months ago, 4 months ago maybe. He said there's a place right here in West Virginia that a bunch of Muslims were settled in, and the government's throwing huge money into them. Huge amounts of money into them. They're not making their own way. They're living off of us that paid taxes. They're living off of us. They're not making their way. They're living off of us. And at the same time, they're wanting to change and manipulate the laws that have been here for 200 plus years. They're wanting them to disperse and destroyed and let Islam come in and take over. Islam is nothing but a socialist system. We've had people that left Islam, that got away from it, said Islam is nothing but a military system under the guise of Islam. They said it's not a religion, it's a military type system under the guise of Islam, under a religious name. But see, not everybody will stand up and tell you that. Not everybody will stand, oh, they're ranking, they're so ranking. And then some of you lick their butts. And then they get by with this racist talk. They've gotten by with it now for 10 years. Obama started this stuff back when he was running for office in 2008. And now anything that disagrees with them is racist. It don't have to have anything to do. It could be a difference between a green leaf in the summer turning brown in the fall and dropping off in the winter. Oh, it's raining. I didn't watch your name about it raining. And you people lick their butts. And you wonder why the mess is going on. You wonder why these cheats and liars and things are getting by with what they're doing. You're the problem. You're the problem. They got out and done talks and sold books and you licked their butts. You're the problem. You're the reason they're getting by with it. If you wouldn't lick their butt, we could deal with them. But they do their little pep rallies and lo and behold, there you are, ready to keep the poop licked out of the crack of their butt so they look good for everybody else. It's a disgrace, people. It's a literal disgrace. It's a literal disgrace that ignorance could drive you into the point that you would be willing to sacrifice things dear and precious to you to let a pervert get off the hook. You would be willing to lick a pervert's butt and sacrifice family and bloodline just so that pervert could get by with what they're doing. It's a disgrace. It is a literal disgrace. It is a literal disgrace. A pitiful, shameful, horrible disgrace. Miss my brother. He passed, I think, 28th of August. It's 3 days before his birthday last year. I got his old Ford truck sitting out behind the house, broke down. You know, I've heard people talk about Fords fixing and repair daily. So help me, I've dealt with that truck, and I'm about ready to get on the train with them, son. Fix it and repair daily. It is a little disgrace that it would take so much stuff to try to figure out what's going on with a vehicle. It's a 94 F-150 Ford. Four-wheel drive, 4.9 liter, straight six, standard. It's pitiful. It's pitiful, man. I put a throttle position sensor, a coolant temperature sensor, a NOx sensor, a fuel pump. I pulled the computer out of it there a few weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks back, and got in there, and I found where the circuit board was burning a little bit, and there was a capacitor there. As I said, it was 63 volt, 10 microfarads, and I looked around some old stuff I had, and I found a 50 volt 10 microfarad and put it in there, and it didn't help it. It just but put that in there, and here, see, there's something else I've changed on it. Oh, I've cleaned some things too, and it had about all the distributor put in it, components within the distributor and plugs and wires and little electronic box over in front of the firewall on the left side, had that put on, and it's about 2 or 3 years ago, and now it's gotten to the point it's just little by little got worse and worse. Now it's got to the point out there it sets. It don't want to start. When you do get it started, you got to sit there and pat the gas. You give it gas, it'll quit. You let up, it'll quit. So you just got to sit there and you just got to goose the pedal like that till you can get a little bit of RPM road. There ain't no way you can drive it. You sit there like that, just trying to keep it running. Just keep it running. I watched a video on YouTube, and the fella said his basically was acting the same way, and he put a map sensor on it. It's over on the far wall on the left side of the truck looking toward the windshield. There's a thing over a map sensor. And he said he put one of them on there and fixed his truck. But no, how many of these videos have I watched that I changed parts that they said this fixed mine? I changed maps, I changed this. And one fella says he changed all this stuff and it didn't fix him. Then he finally changed the NOx sensor and straightened it out. I think maybe that's the first thing I changed. And I changed the throttle position sensor, coolant temperature sensor. I put a fuel pump on it here about a week ago. The fuel pressure was only reading like 20 psi when you turn your key on, and so I changed that. I may end up having to change a fuel pressure regulator. Who knows? But it's pitiful, man. You go through all this stuff. But that reminds me, I got a brother-in-law. His brother-in-law on his side of the family, he married him and my wife are sisters. His and my wife are sisters. He married, his sister was married to the brother-in-law. He's passed, been gone for several years now. But he told the brother-in-law one day, he said, Ronnie, he said, we'll bring a vehicle down there and hook them up on a $12,000 analyzer. $12,000 machine to tell them what is going on in the mind of that computer and its functions around the motor, around the running. $12,000 analyzer, and he said it's guesswork. It'll tell you this, you change it. It'll tell you this, you change. And it just goes on. He said you just guess at it. You think of that. Whew. You think of that mess. '30th of August. John Davis, Twisted World News here in southern West Virginia. Sunny outside. Got out and mowed the grass yesterday. Got it mowed and raked some of it up and took it out to my chickens and let them eat some grass, where I keep them locked up. They'll eat everything that's on the ground. Of course, the ground was bare when I built it because I had to build a place to put them. I had to build the ground and then build my coop or run and all that on top of the ground. So I've got a wall about that high, and but I had to build a place to even put them. I mean, I had to move probably 2 ton of dirt or more just to have a place to build the chicken coop. But anyway, I feed them grass. If someone will mow, I'll go out and rake up some grass and throw it in there. It gives them something else to eat. If they were running loose in the yard or somewhere, they'd automatically eat grass and just whatever. A chicken is nothing but a hog with a beak. I mean, they'll eat anything, man. I mean, there's a hog with a beak. And if you feed them a lot, they poop like a buffalo. Have a good one. Want to end on a little bit of a cheerful note after the rot that I have to talk about. It's a disgrace that I even have to go into the areas of talking about what this stuff that's going on. One writer in the New Testament, he said, we don't even like to speak of the things that are taking place behind closed doors with the ungodly. We don't even want to go there. Why? Because of the shame. Because of the disgrace. Because of the things that these people say and do. We don't want to even talk about that stuff. Have a good one.